What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Larpshire. In today's video, I have my buddy here.
Hi, I'm Eric.
He's been with me pretty much from the beginning with my experience with Larp, and he introduced me to a lot of this stuff. So today we're going to be talking about his awesome Barbarian costume. Hope you enjoy it.
Cheers!
Never drop your weapon! That's a big question. How are they possible? That's because I am! North man.
Alright, so before we get into your costume, tell me a bit about your character.
Right, so the character I play is Thokk Earthbreaker. I've been playing him since I started coming to this LARP, since this LARP started actually. He used to be a Dungeons & Dragons character that I played a long time ago. He's a half-orc barbarian, and he is very crass, very brutish, but he's a good, got a good heart deep down. Some of his likes are, ale and fighting, and that about encompasses it.
So what was the inspiration for this costume and character?
So the character came from Dungeons & Dragons. He's a Dungeons & Dragons character that I used to play, years ago. And the costume has really just been pieced together over the years. Most of what I'm wearing, almost all of what I'm wearing, I either made or I bought from Goodwill. Or other thrift stores. And I think the Barbarian, kind of theme really lends itself to that because it's, pretty patchwork and, kind of earthy, so you can just add things on as you find them or take them off as you get bored of them.
Could you go over some of the individual pieces of this costume and explain where you got them or how you made them?
Yeah, so as I said, most of the basic clothes came from the thrift store. The bracers, both of these I made. This arm armor I made. This, kind of bandolier is one of the center point of the costume. This was actually a old leather weightlifting belt that I pretty heavily modified to hold my axe and to kind of sit here like a bandolier. Another thing, I guess it's out of frame right now, but my boot covers actually were other boots that I cut the soles off of, and now I wear them over top of my boots so that they have cool fur cuffs, because if you try to find cool shoes, cool LARP boots for somebody with my size feet at thrift stores, it's practically impossible. So another tip is don't just see costume pieces for what they are when they're hanging on the rack at the thrift store. For example, this vest that I'm wearing used to be a women's corduroy jacket. I just cut the sleeves off and it fits really nice, but it's also typically kind of hard to find interesting, more fantasy looking vests. They're just, certainly not as much in fashion these days, so they're just harder to find. But a lot of jackets become really nice vests. So another main part of my my costume here is this bone necklace. This was actually made with some bones that we found around the where we actually have our events, and I just kind of pieced it back together and wired it together in this cool looking necklace, which it's kind of one of Thokk's most treasured items. He's not really a very worldly guy, mostly just likes having ale, but this is something that's been with him for a while, and if he probably has some sentimental attachment to it, if he has sentimental attachment to anything. My weapons, I have this hatchet, which is made out of camping mat foam and duct tape. It's sturdy weapon. I do most of my fighting with this just because it holds up really well. And then I have this Calamassal axe, which is very nice. I absolutely love how it looks, but sometimes it's just easier to get to my hatchet if we're having a quick battle. But yeah. has served me quite well, and I really like how it sits and how it looks. I feel like it's just a really nice barbarian piece.
So what's your favorite piece of this costume?
That's a tough one. I really like how it's come together. It's very functional, and I just like how it fits. I've really been happy with how it's been turning out. But my favorite piece has to either be kind of my central harness here or my bone necklace. Functionality-wise, absolutely, this bandolier is just, I really like the look of having a weapon on your back. And it's just having this thick leather, I think, really works with kind of the tribal barbarian look I'm really going for. But just as far as flavor goes, definitely the bone necklace. I'm just pretty proud of how it turned out. I think it looks really intimidating. I think bones are a really great thing, with this more tribal aesthetic that I'm going for. So I think it really works, and I just really like how it looks.
Would you recommend this type of costume and character to someone else?
That's kind of a tough one. I mean, absolutely. For me, playing a barbarian is very easy for me, just because of my personality type. I'm kind of out there and I can be bold. Thokk's kind of motto, I suppose, is go through it rather than around it. So if you're more of a timid person and it's harder for you to kind of break out of that, playing a barbarian might take a little bit more work. Because they're definitely, typically at least, and you can play them however you want, but typically they're kind of more bold and brash, so that might be a little bit harder for some people to play. And as far as costume goes, I think there's kind of, you can do whatever you want. There's a lot of lateral within this character type, because it can be very simple, very simple and tribal, or it can be very complex with lots of leathers and furs. So I think it can be great to get into, and then there's a lot of lateral once you have your character set, if you want to invest in leather and fur and really making it look very cool. That being said, leather and fur can be very expensive, and if you don't have technical know-how to do it yourself, you're probably going to wind up paying a lot to get a really good looking costume.
How would someone go about creating a similar costume to this?
Yeah, so I already touched on this a little bit. First of all, kind of earthy colors, browns and greens, not flashy, because in my headcanon at least, a lot of barbarians come from tribal backgrounds and clans, so you're not really out there flamboyant and trying to impress people with flashy clothes or jewelry. So a lot of browns and greens and blacks, things like that. Of course, thrift stores are the best place to find clothing, but layers is what's really important. Right now I've got 2 shirts and a vest on, and that kind of adds a lot of depth, and that's a great way to really make your costume take it to the next level without putting too much money into expensive accessories. Another thing is when you have layers, especially if you're playing like somewhere where we play, where the weather can be vastly different depending on the time of year. If you have layers that work well together, you can either put more on or lose some layers depending on the temperature. That being said, leather is a little bit harder to come by outside of the hobby. Belts are typically available wherever you want, and you can find some really cool ones to wear, like a bandolier, or if you just have a bunch of belts on, sometimes that can work. But dedicated leather, like bracers and armor, that's a little bit harder to come by, and you're probably going to wind up making yourself, which is varying levels of difficulty. Highly recommend getting into leatherwork though, or you're going to be paying for it, which can get pretty expensive. Another place to look is Army Navy stores and Army surplus. This pouch, for example, and this pouch both came from Army surplus. This, I believe, is a Mosin Nagant ammo pouch. You'll see them around. You can typically get them for between $5 and $15, I think, and they're pretty nice leather. So that's another place to look for cheap pouches that look pretty good.
All right. Do you have any final thoughts for us?
Yeah. I think barbarians are a great class and kind of theme to go for. There's a lot of lateral as far as what your costume can look like depending on how much money you have to put into it, money and time. Also, I guess on a character note, a lot of barbarians have fun voices that you can do. I have kind of I guess it's kind of like a Cockney voice, kind of like, what's this here then? And I chose that voice because I know I can do it loud, and I know I can do it consistently. Some characters that I've played before, I'll pick kind of a bold voice that I really enjoy, but about halfway through the day, I'll start losing it, or I'll like start forgetting what it sounds like. So, you know, on that note, pick a voice that you can carry, and you can carry loudly if you're going to be bold and brash. Because that really makes a memorable character if, you know, people are interacting with you and you're always shouting at them, which I think, you know, is a great way, great way to go about things. Yeah, as far as everything goes, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope if you're looking to make a barbarian costume, this helped out a little bit. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments, and I'll see if I can help you.
So I can't help but notice you've got 2 tankards there. Can you tell me about that?
Right, well, this one's for the small sad, this one's for the big sad. Small sad, running out of ale money. Big sad, lifelong friend, being horribly cut down by goblins.
Alright guys, that is it for us today. I hope you found this video helpful. Stay tuned for more costume breakdowns like this in the future. Remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram at Larpshire.
Right, and don't forget, if you want to see more of me, Thokk Earthbreaker, post in the comments.
We'll see you guys.